Now I'm going to talk about another form of inspiration, and that's inspiration that has absolutely nothing to do with cards. And this is really important because cards aren't special design things. Design replicates itself in many different mediums, and so learning how to create your own design can go well beyond a card. So you can get inspired by anything. So here I have an IKEA magazine here. And if I go to one of the things, the favorite things I find inspiration from sometime are bedding, sheets and bedding. So just looking at these sheets here with all the numbers and the bright colors, I can take that color palette. Let's say I love the way those colors look together. I can take that color palette and apply it to a card. Or I can think, oh, well, maybe my son, since he loves numbers, would like a card with all the numbers on it. And so maybe I'll use my chipboard elements with my die cut to create these numbers and put it on a white card base. And basically I've used the bedding as an inspiration. Give you an example of where I did this here. This particular page has these draperies on it, and I love the blue ones. For some reason they hit me first. And so I looked at this blue and white one with just leaves repeated all the way down. And I said, hey, I could do that. I have some leaves in my stamping collection. So I took some leaves and I picked a blue ink, and I didn't have that exact blue ink, and I think it's Brilliant Blue, but I didn't have it handy, so I used Concord Crush, which is a new color that we have. And I just took a stamp and I stamped some leaves straight down the side, and then I picked a sentiment. And here's another tip about inspiration. Sometimes you can work backwards. What do you want your sentiment to be, and what kind of design would align with that? So this one says, it's never too late to become what you might have been. It's a quote, and I think that's perfect with falling leaves because it's the end of the season. So never too late, even though it's the end of the season in your mind. So sometimes you'll work backwards. You'll think of how that sentiment can be supported in a design. And I do that very often. So, but my original inspiration for the card came from these draperies. Then I looked at these dots and I said, hey, look how they're light and dark. They're not all the same color blue, these dots here on this drapery. So I said, wouldn't it be neat if I tried that on a card? So I tried the dots, and I didn't like the dots so much because I didn't have a dot the right size. So I said, wow, you know, one of the sentiments that I have that I love is a friend is someone who listens with the heart. So I said, wouldn't it be cool to take this design, which is just two colors of the same shade, and use it to create the hearts? And then after I did that, so I just kind of randomly stamped down the hearts with the two-tone effect. Then I put a little bit of bling because everybody in the card industry loves a little bling. So I put a little bit of these gemstones in the middle of a few of the hearts. And so again, the design was inspired by something I liked in these drapes. And then I took that, I carried it over into the card. I kind of had a sentiment in my head as to what I wanted to express, what idea I would call that concept in design. And I was able to put those two elements together to create a card. So this did not get inspired by some other blog or some Split Coast Stampers place, or it got inspired by draperies. So don't hesitate to sit and kind of flick through your catalogs for furniture and draperies and rugs. You will be so surprised how you can be inspired by anything. So inspiration comes from anything and everywhere. And the greatest artists in the world seem to be the most inspired by nature. So get out of the house, go outside, and get inspired. I'm going to share you one more inspiration. And this is what I call self-inspiration. I was inspired by myself. So I had made this card, and I really loved it. So sometimes you'll make something and you'll just be so happy with the result. So this card, I was trying to get a lot of shadows, and so I have all these different dimensions, and I've got acetates and stamping on the acetate. And this card at nighttime really cast quite a few shadows. And so since it's Halloween, I wanted something kind of spooky and shadowy. And this card actually was inspired by a sketch. So there was a card with a cutout piece right here, and a ribbon down this way. I said, I like that. Couldn't that cutout piece be a moon? And couldn't that ribbon like be an embellishment in black? You know, something kind of like vampire-y. And then I had that stamp with the vampire on it, and I said, this is perfect. So I took the sketch and I turned it into my Halloween card, which I have an inside, and I did a whole lot of sponging with black to give it another spooky kind of smoky effect. So that's what happened with the card. But I said, hey, I love this card so much, I'm going to turn it into something else. So the sentiment says, thanks for the memories. So in the first card, I kind of was just thinking about the vampire, but then I said memories. That sounds like a scrapbook. So I turned the card into a smaller version, which is actually a mini scrapbook. And in that mini scrapbook, I put some pages with coordinating color from the same designer series paper set, which is wicked cool. And I added the little circle stamps on each page, and then I left a little space where people could journal. And I just tied it up in a very simple matchbook format. But this matchbook mini album was inspired from my own card. So I often will display my own cards in my craft room, because one card can kick off a series of designs for a gift set, for a mini book, for a page layout in a scrapbook. So don't hesitate to believe you can be inspired by yourself. So I wish you much inspiration, and I thank you for coming today. Bye-bye.